they made their homes down in the tunnels?
Yes, they did. Then we left again and walked out to the alley, and as I'm talking to her, I see this scratch start across her chest. And then all of a sudden you hear this man's voice, and it says, "I kill you."
Hello, everybody. This is Chris with Campfire Tales, Cryptids of America. Joining us around the campfire tonight is
Darlene Wilson.
Darlene Wilson. And Darlene, she's such a trooper because we've been trying to get in touch with each other, and just things haven't been working out. But here she is. And Darlene, what do you do?
I do the haunted tours in Prescott, Arizona. It's a mile-high city with a population of about 50,000. And it was home to Virgil Earth and the Earth Brothers and Doc Holliday for a while.
Wow, okay. What are your favorite places to take people to? Or do you have favorite places?
I do, yeah. On my tours, I start at a haunted hotel, but we're at the Palace Saloon, which is the oldest saloon in Arizona. And the first known existence was 1877 when there was an article in the newspaper about it. But it's the most haunted place. It also has constant activity. And we've done investigations in there. I do my tours there, and it's just something that happens all the time.
So, tell me a little bit about what makes it haunted.
I think a lot of it is there was a brothel that was upstairs. I know that one of the prostitutes died there in the saloon. Her addicted so-called boyfriend really beat her and kicked her to death there in the saloon while everybody stood around and watched. And I know that there used to be a couple of jail cells in the basement while they were rebuilding courthouse, and there were several hangings there in the basement as well. I also know that underneath there was a tunnel. There was a tunnel that ran down Whiskey Row, and a lot of the Chinese were there and made their homes down in that area. So there's a lot of...
They made their homes down in the tunnels?
Yes, they did. Plus, during Prohibition, all the saloons went underground as well.
Right.
And there's a bit of controversy in town about the tunnels because they're all bricked up now and they're more like a basement. The city, the Chamber of Tunnels, they will definitely call them basements, but they were tunnels at one time.
Okay. Yeah, actually one of the towns I used to live in has tunnels that would run from the courthouse square to other buildings, within a block or two.
Right.
And that's how they sneak from the speakeasy to the courthouse and, move their ladies around and stuff like that. But,
there was a story of that happening in Prescott. That story wasn't true, but it did sound good.
Well, and that's the thing. Lots of these old towns, there are good stories that attract people's attention and get them to come there. And of course, while they're there, they learn the truth, and they're still fascinated with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, were there? You said there were hangings in the basement of the plaza.
The Palace.
Palace.
The Palace one. Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
Because one story is that one of the prisoners in the temporary jail cell escaped, and he ended up hanging himself in one of the rooms right next door. Been in the room. It's really hard to breathe in there, and it's quite unsettling. They had one of their employees that was attacked while she was down there, and I don't believe that it was in an evil way. It's just she used to work down there, and then started working upstairs. And she decided to go back down in the basement, check their merchandise, and she goes down and looks. When she leaves and walks out towards the alley where the parking garage is. She just grabbed her chest and she looked, and she has all these scratches all over her chest, and I believe that it was trying to get her to stay down there. So
Wow.
I met with her 2 weeks later to see, you know, if she was okay and what was going on, and was she willing down there, and we did. And then we left again and walked out to the alley, and as I'm talking to her, I see this scratch start across her chest. And she looks down because she could feel it. And I said, there's somebody down there that wants you to stay, there to stay.
Wow. And so it's a single scratch, or is it, you know, the 3 or whatever that everybody says is demonic?
The first scratches she had there was probably about a dozen. You could see claw nail marks, you know, trying to grab her. And this time it was just one very narrow little scratch. And I'm talking to her, and I just noticed it started across her chest, and she looks down because so yeah, that was different.
Yeah, that would be. That would certainly get your attention. Yeah.
Yes,
so have you had any personal experiences there?
Well, the ladies' restroom there, and I had a group of women on my tour, and I was telling them about it, and they wanted to go in there, but they didn't want to go by themselves, so I went with them, and they're in there taking pictures, and they're getting orbs and different things, and someone's around the corner and said, there's a young girl that would like to use the restroom, so they all come out, and they're all talking about the ghost in the bathroom and the orbs. Well, now the girl, who's probably about 15, is scared and doesn't want to go in there. Well, I went over and introduced myself and said, would you like for me to go with you? And she said, oh, yes, please. So we go around the corner, and I said, do you want me to wait here in the hall? And she said, no. And I said, okay. So we go in. She goes back to the stall door and locks it, and all the lights went out. And she came flying out of there. And I just said, honey, I'm sorry, that was not me. There's no light switches in this room. They're all in a locked box up front. So,
wow.
Yeah, her girl, I felt sorry for her.
Yeah, I would have been finished with the bathroom at that point. I had a similar experience happen to me at the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs. And, yeah, but I had, the lights were out due to a fatality accident down the road. And so I had a little flashlight, but I was standing in front of the urinal doing my business, and this black mass passed between me and the urinal twice.
Oh, my God. Oh,
and I almost clawed the door down to get out of there. So, yeah.
It is a little unsettling.
It is. Well, I mean, you think you can handle it, because, but when it happens, it's different.
It's a different thing.
Yeah. So what were you going to say?
Last Halloween, I did a fundraiser for Palace Saloon, and all the proceeds went to the U.S. vets. And it was the only time that the public's allowed in the basement. And we had 60 in one of our groups. They're all downstairs sitting on the benches, and a friend of mine is showing them how to use a mag flashlight to communicate with spirits. Mm-hmm. And another person was recording it on her cell phone, and when she played it back, you can hear, Sandy talking about the mag. You can kind of hear the crowd, and then all of a sudden you hear this man's voice, and it says, I kill you. And then,
what?
I know, and then a little further down, you hear a woman's voice, and she says, F you. So these two ghosts are having this fight over all these people that are down there. And it's like, I don't know that they were aware. I think they were in their own dimension and had no idea.
Yeah. Oh, gee. That would be so weird to get something like that.
Oh, I know. It was very, very clear. You can't miss it.
So were there any gunfights in the saloon or the theater or anything like that?
There's bullet holes in the ceiling from, miners or even cowboys shooting it up or whatever. They've got them all scattered around there.
Yeah.
So not long ago, there was a group of teachers had come in for lunch, and they were sitting at one of the round tables, and Ray was serving them, and he said, "Your food's ready. I'm going to go get it." So he's back in the kitchen, and then he hears all this screaming, and he comes out, and the women had all jumped up and were running to the front of the bar. He goes up there, and he said, "What's wrong? What happened?" And they said, "Well, the condiments in that buffet by our table came flying out and hitting us." And he goes back there and looks, and they're laying all over the floor and all over the table. So he boxed up their food and just gave it. And they wrote the previous owner and said, "Wow, it's the best food we've ever had, and we'll never come back."
Best takeout food ever, huh?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, this man was taking a picture of his two young daughters at the Palace 2 weeks ago. And he sent the picture to us, and there is a face of a ghost standing between the girls. She's got her face stuck up there like she picture as well.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
You know, so many of the places in the West, the Old West, you know,
Right.
there's a lot of history out there, even though
Right.
it's not that old, you know.
No, I know. Yeah.
But there was so much violence and so much heartache and everything, and so I guess there's no wonder that spirits linger.
Yeah, and Prescott was a mining town, so you had a lot of miners from all different nationalities that came out here. They were mining for gold. It became a territorial capital in '64, and so there were a lot of miners here. The Fort Whipple was here as well, and then the governor built his mansion just a block from where the fair is. And there were hangings, there. So there's a lot of history, and that's why there's a lot of activity in this town. It's amazing.
Wow. So, what other stories do you have? I mean, you got me interested here.
Well, the Hotel Vendome is another very haunted hotel. It was built in 1917, and it has a ghost cat. I've got a picture of it that was taken on my tour. And then a lot of other things that happens there all the time, as well as the Hassayampa Inn. It's another historical, 1927. And then you've got the Elks Theater, which was an Elks opera house. And they did renovations in 2009, so they stirred up a lot of activity there. And it's easy. I've been doing the tours 10 years, and the stories just keep coming. There's just more and more stories. In fact, we're going to have to write another book, a part 2, because we've got more stories to add to our book.
Tell me the name of your book again.
It's Haunted Prescott.
And where would people find this book?
They can buy it they can buy it on Amazon and on my website, and then I imagine, like Costco and places like that had them here, but I think Amazon would be the best bet for people not in the area.
Okay. And would you like to mention your website address?
Sure, it's hauntings.tours.com. Or they can find it under hauntedprescott.com.
And here they can buy the books, and also can they book the tour?
Tours? Yes, they definitely can. Yeah.
Okay, good.
They can buy the book at the Palace Saloon, too. The Palace Saloon's been a great supporter, but like I said, the Palace Saloon is... Oh, another story. This one of the young guys comes in early in the morning to clean the restrooms and empty out the trash and get ready for the business day, and he had mopped all the floors, and he goes back in the bathroom to take the empty trash can. There were muddy, barefoot prints coming out of the stall out to the door. They didn't have any going in, just coming out. And he got a video of that.
I would love to see that kind of stuff. I just don't want to be the one that finds it.
They've had a few employees that quit because they get tapped on the shoulder and nobody's there, and they say, I can't do this, so they're gone.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
I know.
Man, this is great. I've
Good.
got all night. So this.
Another story is Scott's an owner now, and when he went to work there about, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, he had informed me that he didn't believe in ghosts. And 2 weeks after that, he has had stuff happen all the time. So he is definitely a believer now. And he's had so many things, a shadow waving to him on the wall, and nobody's around, and he's looking around, he can't find, there's nobody there, and it just keeps waving at him. And then, the girl that got attacked, and Scott's the one that called me and asked me to talk to her and see what could happen, what we could do to help her.
Wow. So what were you able to do to help her?
Well, mainly I just wanted her to understand it wasn't anything evil. She had worked down in the basement for like 3 months and then went to work at a different location. So then when she went down a month later to check on merchandise, then that's when he tried to get her to stay. And I just told her, I said, there's a lot of activity here. I've just never known any to be malicious. That's mainly I wanted to find out, what it was all about so that we could help her and so she wouldn't be afraid.
Sure.
It's amazing how active this town is. And like I said, more and more stories happen all the time. We've gotten some interesting pictures behind the Masonic Lodge, and that they're descendants of the Knights Templars, and somebody got a picture of a Knights Templar when she was taking it, and everybody took hundreds of pictures afterwards and didn't get anything, so.
Well, that piques my interest as well because I am a Freemason and a Knights Templar. People tell stories about, images or apparitions that they see in Masonic lodges. And, I think that's pretty cool, too, because people who are into the fraternity, it means something very important to them. It's just like any other organization, If you like it in life, you're going to like it in death,
Right.
But,
exactly.
And so you've been doing the tours, I always call it Prescott, but it's not. It's Prescott.
Yeah.
Prescott. You've been doing those tours for how long now?
10 years, almost 11. Wow. When I started it, I thought, it was just a fad, and we'd see how long it lasted, and 10 years later, it's still going. And I'm very grateful for it because it's fun, and I talk about the history a lot. And Doc Holliday and Big Nose Kate, who was his girlfriend, on again, off again girlfriend, she died here in Prescott and is buried here in Prescott. And then one of the other guests that they had at the Pioneers home, Naylor, and when they'd sit around and tell stories, he would tell stories that only Billy the Kid knew. And when he died and no one claimed his trunk, the government went through his trunk and found things in there that only Billy the Kid would have. And so he's buried here. He does not have a headstone. So, the story is that Pat Garrett shot Billy the Kid and buried him, but no one saw who it was. And and then I believe it was the Washington Journal, or those posted a picture of Billy the Kid and then a picture of John Miller, and then they overlaid the two pictures together, and their facial features match up perfectly. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Here in Texas, we have that's where I'm from, by the way, Texas.
Okay.
We have a few legends of our own, and one of them was that Billy the Kid came to Hyco, Texas, and was known as Brushy Bill or something like that. And and I think I'm not sure if he's supposed to be buried in Hyco or Granbury or Hood County area. And then in Granbury, John Wilkes Booth is supposed to have come to Well, it was a saloon on the square, and it's a theater. After he was supposedly killed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, there's mystery and history
Oh, right.
everywhere.
I know. I know. And there is. Supposedly Doc Holliday won $10,000 playing poker at the Palace Saloon. But don't know that completely, but that's the
Yeah.
rumor. And
Well,
there's so many.
if I'm playing poker with Doc Holliday, I'm just going to push all my money over there to him.
Right, just give it
Because
to
I
me.
don't want this guy to get drunk and shoot me.
Right.
You know.
That's true.
So, what would you say would be the most interesting, scary, spooky occurrence you had while doing the tours?
Well, let's see. I would guess it would be at the Palace Saloon with the all the lights going out in the bathroom, because I know that there's no light switches. I know that lights are in a locked box up front, so
Yeah.
no one would even know that we were back there. It's too far away. And then down in the basement where we've done some investigations, the different people that we have talking to us on the EVPs, plus the one that said "I kill you." That one was a little unsettling for the people that heard it.
Yeah, that would get your attention. Yeah.
Right. Right.
There's been what I would call professional ghost enthusiasts come down there and do investigations.
Yes,
I'm trying not to say. Yeah, I'm trying not to say, TV programs and stuff. My purpose for doing this is, first, I like to give people an outlet to tell their story, and my listeners a great story to listen to, and maybe they'll come visit the saloon and take a tour.
Right. Well, I appreciate that, but I love sharing the stories of our town, because it's not a town it's very historical. They do not tear down any buildings and put up new ones. They preserve the ones that they have, and they have over 100 homes and business over 100 years old.
Wow.
And we have two of our buildings. One building is probably about the oldest building in Arizona. It was built in 1892. It's called the Tiz Art Gallery now, but it was purchased by a woman, Ann Dater, who the building had sat empty 20 years, and she couldn't stand to see this historical building rotting away, and she bought it and turned it into a nonprofit art gallery for local artists. So, and it's Arizona's first skyscraper, and it's 3 stories high. So everybody cracks up when I tell them. But there's just stuff happening all the time. At the Elks Theater, which was an Elks Opera House, it opened its doors in 1905. And I believe that there were 100 Elks Opera Houses built in the United States, and this is the only one that's still standing. So that is another big data bought and refurbished back to its appearance of 1905. So they take a lot of pride in their homes and the businesses that they have here.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I'd love to see history restored, buildings, renovated and, preserved with history. Yeah.
Right. Well, you were asking about if anything had happened. At the Hassayampa Inn, I had a paranormal group on my tour, and I was sitting up front, and it was built in 1927 of the Art Deco period, and it looked exactly how it did when they built. And it was local residents that bought dollar shares to build this hotel. So I was sitting up front, and I told Barry, the lead investigator, I said, "You might picture there's somebody behind me." And he took 3 pictures, and in one picture there was the man that we call the night watchman who sits up there. So we got a picture of him. And then we went down to the basement, one of us down there, and said sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning, you'll hear a stampede of people in the housekeeping area, and it's dark and locked and closed, and nobody's working. So we're standing there, and someone tapped me on the shoulder, and I told Barry, I said, there's someone here. He says his name is Silas. He was a miner, and he died in the fire of the hotel that was there before the Hassayampa. And I didn't know there had been a hotel there. So I did some research and found that there was a hotel there called the Congress Hotel, and it had burned down in 1924, and the fire had started at 3 a.m. And that's when they hear the stampede of people. Yeah. So I wouldn't have known about that except for the ghost that told me about it. I'm putting a group together, and we're going to Ireland in May, a tour there. I designed a package. I was there last May and had some stuff happen to me. So,
Where did you go in Ireland?
Of course, went to Dublin. My first ghost encounter was at the Kilmainham jail.
Yep.
Then I went west and went to Lac Castle and had a ghost encounter there. And we're going to do a 4-hour lockdown at Loftus Hall with a paranormal group. So it's going to be fun.
Wow. That sounds exciting. But the Kilmainham,
right.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible.
I know it.
Well, enjoy yourself.
Oh, I will. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and close out for this evening. And like I say, please call me back anytime. And
all right.
I thank you so very, very much for speaking with us this evening. To my listeners, this was Darlene. Did you say your last name earlier?
Wilson, Darlene Wilson.
Okay. And she's in Prescott, Arizona, and great storyteller, has a lot of paranormal experiences. You guys check her out on her website, and be sure to buy your books from her and book some tours. And don't spend all your money there, though. Remember, I've got a website, too, all right? So y'all check out the merchandise. All right? Thanks a lot.
All right.
God bless, and goodbye.